Okay, shalom. Right, wonderful, wonderful lesson. This has got such a wonderful message, especially at this time. We're on Erev Sukkoth, and there's a wonderful message in this, by the way. One that's got to give us hope as we enter into our temporary dwelling during this festival. So it's called I Alone Remain, Elijah that precedes Moshiach. Let's go and have a look at this. So we've got this here, I alone remain, and he said, I have been zealous for Yod-Heh-Wah with the Lord of the God of hosts. For the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, they have torn down your altars, they have killed your prophets by the sword, and I alone remain. And they seek my soul to take it. So this is taken from 1 Kings 19:14. Now I'm not going to go and analyse that in context, because I want to particularly drill down into a concept that we associate with Elijah, that he comes before the coming of the Moshiach. Okay, we're going to have a look at an article on Chabad.org, but we're going to be looking at another concept that links Elijah to Moshe, the whole concept of death and resurrection of the resurrection from the dead. Very, very interesting concepts that pulled out of the Midrash Rabbah. Some really, really wonderful insights, and I'm just delighted to be able to speak about. But first of all, let's go and have a look at this gematria, because in this verse there's something very interesting. There's actually a really wonderful. There's a lot hidden in here. There's a lot of hidden teachings, and I'm just going to draw on one particular aspect of this verse because it connects us to lots of concepts that are very powerful messianic concepts in and of themselves. Right, so it's this section of the verse. It says, I alone remain. It comes to a regular of 720, an ordinal of 108. Together they come to 828. Filled, it comes to 2,228, and square ordinal is 1,518. All those are very significant numbers, by the way, and they're connected to lots of messianic concepts, as we will see. The first one being none other than what we are awaiting, the arrival of Moshiach himself. So this concept where he recognized that he alone remained, obviously he didn't. However, there's a hidden message in those words that he spoke that's possibly connected to the fact that he precedes the coming of the Moshiach. Because here we've got in point 2, Moshiach ben David, spelled rectified, fully rectified, including the Yod, which represents the wisdom that is hidden in the darkness of exile that we are all enduring, the Edomite exile. It comes to a Mespar Gadol of 1,084. The regular of this, Moshiach ben David, this is the Mispar Gadol, the regular of it is 434. Okay, if we add them together, 1,518, which is the square ordinal of I alone remain. So we can see, even in this verse, there's a very hidden secret reference to the coming of Moshiach ben David, and that's something about Elijah that is very significant. And we really want to find out, okay then, if Elijah precedes Moshiach, what could that possibly be indicating to us? And when we go and have a look at the death of Elijah, how he ascended into heaven on the chariots of fire, we can learn something for us today. What can we do today to imitate Elijah in some way that then helps precede a revelation of the concept of Moshiach ben David, who we're awaiting? Okay, another great mystery there then. So I mean, if that wasn't significant enough, then we've also got reference to the hidden very secret mystical name of Moshiach ben Yosef, or it's actually the name that Pharaoh gave to Joseph when Joseph was disguised in Egypt as an Egyptian. We've got a situation where Moshiach ben Yosef is Yeshua, who is now disguised by all these filthy garments that he's been clothed in from Rome. We are in Roman exile at this time. Joseph was in Egyptian exile. He was dressed in Egyptian clothes and things like that. So there's a connection to that whole concept of Moshiach ben Yosef in exile with us, with a hidden identity. So Zaphanaf Paneach, it's not obvious that Yeshua is Hebrew. It wasn't obvious that Yosef is Hebrew, and this concept of being Hebrew is going to come up later in the teaching. So 828, I alone remain. As we can see, these words are indicating to us some deep secrets regarding Moshiach, the whole concept of Moshiach. So we need to start to piece these together, because he's really not just saying I alone remain. He's giving us some indication of why he needs to precede the coming of Moshiach. Okay, and we want these two to be revealed. Okay, I can't go too deeply into this concept at this time, but basically in the Talmud, there's a section of the Talmud which states the names of Moshiach. Okay, so you've got Chanina, who says the Moshiach is called Chanina. You've got Yanai, who says the Moshiach is called Yinon. You've got Shelah, who says the Moshiach is called Shiloh, and you've got some rabbis that say his name is Menachem. Okay, those initial letters of those four names for Moshiach spell Moshiach. Okay, then all the rabbis say he's a leper from the house of Rabbi Yehuda and Nissi. All the rabbis. You've got to understand there's a very significant difference in the words, because, Shelah, Shiloh, Chanina, Yanai, Yinon. This to me is saying when we're looking for Mashiach in this world, we're looking for something that is like us. Chanina, the Mashiach was Chanina. Yanai, the Mashiach was Yinon. Shelah, the Mashiach was Shiloh. So there's a big similarity, and this is a big problem. We are wanting the Mashiach that is like us. How else could we word that? We are what we have created, the figment of our own imagination, based on our own expectation of what Moshiach is. And although we can take that concept of the false Moshiach and use it to reveal the truth about Moshiach, I've said this a lot, we don't get given anything handed to us on a plate. We get its opposite. We've got to transform it. So we get darkness, we've got to transform it into light. We've got evil, we've got to transform it into good. We've got concealment, we've got to transform it into revelation. We get the false Mashiach handed to us in great abundance, and from that we've got to reveal the true Mashiach, and we're going to reveal the true Mashiach in this lesson. God willing, as aspects of the true Mashiach, but we've got to take everything that is false in a way in order to transform it. Okay, so all the rabbis said Mashiach is, his name is the leper from the house of Rabbi Yehuda and Nissi. There's a difference when it comes to the concept of the leper, because all the rabbis are in agreement. This is very significant. So they obviously weren't just saying he was a leper. They were saying, look at the verses in the Torah to indicate what the secret identity of the Moshiach within the verses of the Torah that contain the verses regards leprosy. So when you go and have a look, it's very clear, and I've done teachings about this, the leper is Yeshua. The leper is Yeshua. The leper king, the Moshiach has revealed in the verses of the Torah regarding the leper, and everything about the concept of the leper points at Yeshua being the Moshiach. Okay, so these three words are taken from three verses that have got a lot in common, that they start one way and end where the leper is declared clean. He is clean. Tahar hu. I think that's how it is. Tahar hu. He is clean. But in the middle of this word, it talks about the leprosy being white. So in the three verses, they've got three different expressions of whiteness regarding the leprosy that then goes on to declare that the leper is clean. I can't go through that in this verse, because I've done lots of teachings about the leper king and the Moshiach, the leper Moshiach. But these are three verses from Leviticus, like Leviticus 13:13 and verses around that the end begin the same and end the same. They're almost exactly the same beginning to the verse, like behold, and then they've got the exact same ending. He is clean. We're going to get that concept come again later. It's related to these also. It's all extremely significant. Okay, all these numbers are. I just haven't got time to say it. But we've got a connection here, haven't we? We've got the 828, which is one of these words from, which one would it be? It would be this one, I would believe. Yeah, it is. It's this one here. I just had to quickly go and colour that in so you can see how it's linked. So this, again, we've got a concept, the whole concept of leprosy, which clearly identifies who the Moshiach is, especially the Moshiach ben Yosef, I should say. This is a significant number because it is the Mispar Gadol, regular and ordinal, of Ein Sof, without end. Okay, which is above all names, the nothingness, the ayin that precedes the whole of creation. Okay, and it's also this, and behold, a ladder set up on the ground, and its top reached to heaven. And I spoke about this before. At the top of the ladder is the concept of Yeshua Sahapanim, Yeshua, Prince of the Face, or the Faces, and that's referring to when we come face to face with Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, the 50th gate of understanding, where we understand the suffering of the righteous. Okay, the concept of the suffering of the righteous. Moshe attained 49 levels. Through Yeshua, we attain the 50th level. We attain the concept of the suffering of the righteous when we understand the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, and why Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh had to make that provision, and the purpose for that provision, and all the workings of creation and things like that bring us to that place where Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh's will is fulfilled to reveal his oneness to all humanity. Okay, so it's all connected. We've got to ascend this ladder, and on this ladder are all the angels of exile. We've got to ascend the ladder to get to the top. We've got to overcome all the forces of exile in order to get to that 50th gate, the 50th level of understanding, the 50th level of Bina. It's associated as well with Jubilee, and it's associated with joy. And joy is really the primary emotion for this festival of Sukkot that is upon us now. We're at Erev Sukkot today. So there's a connection between Ein Sof and the whole of these, these three words for white in these three verses regarding leprosy that reveal lots and lots and lots regarding the concept, and that through the Talmud, the words of the Talmud, we are inspired to go and have a look at the verses of Torah that contain the concept of leprosy in them. And they believed in Hashem. So this is from Exodus 14:13 regarding Bnei Yisrael. Square ordinal 828. So that is linked to this. Belief is the end goal. We have to believe, have perfect faith. So our faith through exile is being perfected, because it's through that perfect faith that we're able to comprehend the oneness of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. Our faith brings us to a place of shalom, because faith is very much associated with truth, and truth is what suppresses all the lies, all the sheker, and all the concepts of false Moshiach that we've got, in order to reveal the concept of the true Moshiach, which is really the restoration of our da'ath, our supernal da'ath, our supernal knowledge, which is, Moshe is the realm of supernal knowledge, the supernal knowledge, the da'ath that fell when we ate from the Eitz da'ath, the tree of knowledge. Okay, so we're rectifying our da'ath up, we're rectifying our knowledge of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh up, and we need faith in order to do that. And in order to have true faith, we've got to have truth. Truth is what we need. It's you can't have faith in a lie. True perfect faith is true perfect faith in truth. It's all connected, it's all glorious. This is very interesting. We're going to be having a look at this number now, the 720. Right, there's a few aspects to this 720. I talked about the tree of knowledge. Okay, so we ate from the tree of the knowledge, and our da'ath, our knowledge, is what fell. It fell from the place of what's called Golgotha into a place called our flesh. It had 2 crowns upon it, Chesed and Gevurah, and they fell into the right Chesed and to the left Gevurah. Okay, we've got a problem because now we've got conflict. We've got this tension between the right and the left side of reality, good and bad, and light and dark, and there's a conflict. We've got to elevate our da'ath back up to its rightful place in Golgotha, the place of the skull, and then we're able to clearly perceive the concept of Moshiach, and through the concept of Moshiach we can clearly perceive the name of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay, so let's go and have a look at these. The things that we've got here are linked to that concept, that the fallen state, the fallen understanding of our concept of Moshiach. And bearing in mind Yeshua's crucified in Golgotha, this is part of the rectification to bring us up to that place where our da'ath is elevated back to where it should, from our flesh into our skull, the place of our skull, where it should be. And the crowns that are fallen to the left and the right, and a lot of conflict, are placed above the realm of da'ath, the sphere of da'ath, above our knowledge, in unity rather than in disunity and separation. Okay, so first of all, here we've got, this is right, it's Yeshua spelt out. I've just wait a minute. Right, I just had to correct that. I had an extra letter on then. So Yod Shin Vav Ayin, Yeshua, how it's spelt out. 522. And we've got also 717. I've seen 117 somewhere else. Or maybe not. But anyway, if we add a Vav in there, which is one of the fillings out of Vav, Vav can be filled 3 different ways. A Vav Vav, a Vav Aleph Vav, and a Vav Yod Vav. If we add an Aleph, that would go up to 118, which would exactly equal all 3 ordinal values for those 3 words within those 3 verses that describe the state of leprosy being white and then clean. Okay, so 522 plus 117 ordinal comes to 639. Then you've got the concept, the tree of the knowledge. Okay, Eitz Hada'ath, the tree of knowledge, 639, exactly the same as Yeshua, the regular and ordinal of Yeshua. He is the only opposite, the tree of knowledge. We need the secrets of the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, the suffering servant, to get us up that ladder to the top, where we come face to face with Yeshua Sahapanim, face to face with Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh, as far as we're able to come face to face with Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Okay, we can't face Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh himself. We've got to come face to face with his representative of his name, which is Yeshua. So 639. 81 ordinal is Eitz Hada'ath. Okay, Moshe filled, Mem Shin He, is 450 plus an ordinal of 81. So we've got in the tree of knowledge Yeshua and Moshe. Add them together, 720, which comes to I alone remain. Beautiful, beautiful gematria here, And then this is also significant. This particular verse. I hope I've got the verse included. Let me just check. No, I haven't even got the verse. I'll just go get the verse why this is significant, I think. Anyway, let me just go through this. It will come up later, I'm pretty sure. Ha-emeth, the truth. So this is the square ordinal of ha-emeth. Yeshua, remember, he says, I am the truth. Okay, he is that truth regarding the concept of Moshiach that helps us overcome all those false concepts of Moshiach, the lie. What the Moshiach we're expecting for ourselves to come. He wasn't the expected Moshiach. He was the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. He was the Moshiach is revealed in the mind of God, not in our mind. He was the Moshiach that's revealed in the knowledge, through the knowledge of God, the true da'ath in the place of Golgotha, not through our fallen knowledge that we are able to perceive through our flesh. Okay, he's the truth, and it's only the truth that can overpower the fantasy fiction. It's got to find the truth, what is revealed in the Torah. Where's the best place to look? the verses where there is the concept of leprosy. The Talmud is pointing us to that. I've done teachings on it. I suggest you go look at it if you want to be enlightened and blessed. This is light after all. Okay, so we can see again highly messianic terms here. Also 41 is the ordinal of Kiseh David, the throne of David. That ordinal is 41 of that, so there's a connection there. And Vilna Gaon said Moshiach ben Yosef is the throne of David. There is no throne of David without Moshiach ben Yosef. He comes before a revelation of Moshiach ben David. In fact, we have got to do a whole lot of work below 999 footsteps, toiling against all the forces of evil to get that Yud out of the darkness where Yod He Wah hid it. He's given us a very difficult work to do so that we can ascend that ladder and understand all the mysteries of the Torah, all the hidden ways in which Yod He Wah has worked, including through the suffering of the righteous, and ascend and get to that 50th gate, which is redemption, the Yovel, attaining the level of Bina, the place we have fallen and being elevated up. The Moshiach has fallen in, the Shekinah has fallen into exile, and we need to elevate it back up to its rightful place, the level of Bina. It's all connected, it's all glorious. Okay, train a child according to his way, even when he grows he will not turn from it. So this is really connected also to the concept of Metatron, who is called Na'ar, the youth. Why? Because he was once a human and he became an angel, according to the book of Enoch and according to a lot of the esoterical teachings. He's really an example to us all, by the way. And also Yeshua, he came in a human form, but then he's this incredible meta-archangel system, secretly preparing the entire of creation to receive that Yod He Wah desires for us to receive. And in the book, the Athnuvath, that whole system is called Han-Hagar. It's the way Yod He Wah manifests his will throughout the entire of creation, and everything is working for a good and perfect end, which is to reveal his oneness throughout all creation and his glory throughout all creation. The end is good. Okay, how is that connected? That's 828. There's lots of things I could talk about with just that alone, all the concept of Metatron. I talked about it a lot previously, but we can see there's a connection. Anything to do with Metatron is highly significant because until all the secrets regarding the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef are revealed, and the King of Kings is revealed, i.e. the Moshiach comes in his final incarnation as Moshiach ben David, we're in an in-between stage of maturity, and in that in-between stage Metatron acts as regent until the King of Kings is fully revealed. So the Moshiach is the King of Kings, Yod He Wah is the King over Kings of Kings. Okay, and it's all very glorious, and it's all connected also to a circumcised heart. We have got to circumcise our heart to be able to receive that Yod He Wah desires to bestow upon us. We can see that Han-Hagar system. We know Metatron is part of the system. He's called what's called the Prince of the World. He is running the show until Yeshua is fully revealed as the Moshiach, and from him Moshiach ben David is fully revealed. He's united with Moshe, and then the unity of Moshe and Yeshua together brings about a revelation, the final revelation of Moshiach ben David. I've talked about this a lot. As we can see, there's a connection 323, the square regular of this Han-Hagar, the whole system of operation, the whole system, the way that creation is run at this time in exile. 3,230, and that's connected here to this square regular, which is 8 times 323. This is 10 times 323. But like I say, the Mispar Gadol, ordinal, that's a significant number in and of itself, and 397, if we add them together, they come to 824, which is connected up to this. Highly messianic. This is really connected to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, hidden. The system is hidden. Yosef was hidden in Egypt. Moshiach ben Yosef is hidden the system of perfection is hidden. The name of Yotewahwe is hidden. We have, we have the name Elohim is more revealed to us. Okay. Right, let's go and have a read about the concept of Elijah and the concept of him preceding Moshiach. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much time going through this, because the concept that I want to get through to from Midrash Rabbah is so wonderful. So I just want you to understand this concept of Elijah heralding the redemption, because when we go learn from the lessons in Midrash Rabbah what Elijah stands for in terms of resurrection from the dead, and the fact that he didn't die bodily, there's a lot of lessons we can draw off that. So we need to know about him coming first. This is what I wanted to show you. Hopefully I've made myself clear there. The prophet Malachi says, "Behold, I will send to you Elijah the prophet before the arrival of the great and awesome day of God." Elijah will appear in order to herald the coming of Moshiach. Some say he will arrive 3 days prior to the revelation of Moshiach. Others say that he will arrive before the war of Gog and Magog, which will precede the arrival of Moshiach. Regardless, the fact that Elijah has not yet appeared doesn't preclude Moshiach from coming this very moment. If we are found deserving today, God will not delay the redemption even for one moment. Elijah will also serve several other important functions. He will bring peace to the world. He will rectify Israel's behaviour, causing them to repent and return to God. He will ordain rabbis, a necessary prerequisite to the re-establishment of the Sanhedrin, Supreme Rabbinic Court. To be eligible to serve on the Sanhedrin, one need to be ordained by an individual who can trace the chain of his ordination back to Moshe, who ordained Joshua and the 70 elders. Through the course of the exile, this chain has been broken. He will issue decisions regarding unresolved halachic disputes. He will inform every Jew to which of the 12 tribes he belongs. His ability to establish the tribal ancestry of every Jew stems from one of his favourite pastimes, attending circumcisions. Who better to recount the lineage of every Jew than someone who was at every Jewish circumcision? Why Elijah? Bearing in mind the circumcision of every male is and it's said about circumcision is, but the circumcision of the heart, the circumcision of the male anatomy is also very important. There's 3 aspects to this circumcision, all called kings. Circumcision of the lips, which represents the concept of Moshiach that's related to Moshe. You know, he was slow of lips, and yet, we're commanded to circumcise our lips. He said he had uncircumcised lips. That's what the word used. And then Yotewahwe helped him by sending Aaron, his brother, to be his mouthpiece. Okay, so there's always 2 aspects to circumcision: what we do ourselves, and then what Yotewahwe does to help us. So there's 2 layers to the male anatomy, the circumcision of the male anatomy, the thick outer layer and the thin inner layer. And then there's 2 aspects to the circumcision of the heart. You know, in the Torah it says, circumcise your heart, and then it says, and Yotewahwe will circumcise our heart. So there we've got 2 aspects to that. Circumcision is very important. Circumcision of our flesh is very important, and it's very much connected to Elijah. And these are the kings that should rule over our body. Okay, circumcised lips, circumcised male anatomy, but the most significant aspect of our physicality is a circumcised heart. Moshiach ben, representing Moshiach ben David. The circumcised male anatomy represents Moshiach ben Yosef, Yesod. Okay, that's the area of Yesod. So that's another thing to consider. Let me have a look. Why Elijah? Elijah will herald the future redemption, for he personifies the essence of the Moshiach Messianic era, the culmination of the refinement and elevation of the physical world, which we are accomplishing through millennia of exile. An analysis of Elijah will explain why all of the prophets and sages, specifically, he was chosen to be the bearer of the greatest tidings ever. To better understand Elijah, let us juxtapose him against Moshe, our first Redeemer. So we've got Moshe. This is important because when we go to the Midrash to talk about this really significant concept that we're going to go through regarding death, the 2 aspects of death, it's a contrast between Moshe and Elijah at that time. Moshe is the umbrella term for Moshiach. Right, regarding Moshe's birth, the Torah tells us that his mother Jochebed saw him, that he was good, and sages explain that she perceived that with Moses' birth, the entire home was filled with light. On a deeper level, the home is reference to the body, the soul's domicile. For most people, life is a constant struggle between the soul and its spiritual agenda, and the body and its desire and urges for such people, life challenges, is to work on refining the body until it is in harmony with the soul. This was not the case for Moshe. Moshe's soul was so powerful that despite its descent into the body, its holiness was undimmed. His body couldn't conceal its light. It was never a match for the intensity of his soul. Moshe's bodily needs were somewhat irrelevant. The body was merely the vehicle through which the remarkable soul communicated with this world. This is the inner reason why Yocheved was only pregnant with Moses for 6 months. His body was never fully developed. Only the soul was of prime importance. So, okay, that's some Kabbalistic teachings there regarding how long Moses' birth, how long his gestation period was. So let's have a look at Elijah then. Our sages tell us, this is in contrast, that Elijah's mother's gestation period was a full 12 months indeed. His body was fully developed, perhaps a tad overdeveloped, and presented a formidable foe for his soul and its holy agenda. Throughout his entire life, Elijah was forced to struggle to achieve a state of spirituality and refinement. His inborn animalistic nature is alluded to in his Hebrew name, Eliyahu, which incredibly has the same numerical value as the word Behemah, animal. Yet Elijah wasn't deterred by the magnitude of the challenge. He persisted in his quest for refinement and succeeded in refining himself to the extent that his body became sufficiently purified and spiritual that it was able to ascend as is to the spiritual world. Even Moses was unable to accomplish this feat because refinement of the body was never his objective. Okay, so I hope you're getting some hints why now Elijah has to precede the coming of Moshiach. Why? Because we've got to all be like Elijah. We've got to circumcise those aspects of our flesh. That's why Elijah turns up at all the circumcisions to remind us what is important. We've got to circumcise our lips. Only speak holy words. Only speak in holy ways. Circumcise. Be pure spiritually, like there's equivalent of the male circumcision. And then circumcise our hearts. This is when all our emotions are refined, so that we think, speak, and act in ways that imitate the name Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. And we reach that level where we are able to receive that revelation of Moshiach ben Dawid. So it's the circumcision of our flesh that's quite important, and that's something that we can all work on today. Okay. Right, we'll go back now. Okay, so we're going to look at this brilliant gematria before we go to the concept about Elijah and Moshe found in the Midrash Rabbah. So we've got this 108 and 2228 we're going to be looking at now. And we've got this concept which he took from, this is talking about the rib which he took from Adam. And I did a whole teaching on the Aleph Lam Mim. It's mysterious anyway. You'd have to go look at the videos. It's related to the Aleph, the Lamed, and the Mim. It's something that's written in the Quran, but we can take what's written in the Quran and translate it in a healthy way, and it reveals us something. It's these three mysterious letters written in the Quran, but if we use the equivalent in Hebrew, the Aleph Lamed Mim instead of Alif Lam Mim, we get to this verse, which is the first occurrence of three words in succession where the initial letters are Aleph Lamed Mim. And I did teaching on that. You'd have to go and have a look because I haven't got time to go through that now. But he's talking about the rib that was taken from Chava. It's three aspects of Moshiach also. Moshe is the Aleph, the Lamed is Moshiach ben Yosef, and the Mim is Moshiach ben Dawid. It's all incredibly messianic stuff. You'd have to go look at the video. However, I ain't got time to go through that now. I'm just going to point out that this concept, which contains major unity between the Abrahamic faiths of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, and that's what's got to be accomplished before the revelation of Moshiach ben Dawid. Those three faiths have got to unite. It's a minimum requirement, and the Torah reveals that very clearly. 108, exactly the same. Got Moshe, which is 108. Why Moshe? Because he's the umbrella term for the Moshiach. He is the Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. Moshe comes to 345. The ordinal of Moshe is 39, adding together 384. 384 is exactly the same as Moshiach of Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. And this is the Moshiach that is revealed in the mind of God, which is the Torah. And instead of the Moshiach that's revealed through our fallen knowledge, our fallen aspect of da'ath, that's fallen into our flesh when we are in a state that's not fully rectified, because we haven't got circumcised lips, we haven't got circumcised anatomy, and we haven't got circumcised heart. So until we are going through that process of refinement, bodily refinement, and then elevating our sphere of da'ath up to the place where it should be, i.e. the place of the skull, and we are connecting to the truth, the concept of the Moshiach is revealed in the Torah, not the concept that is revealed in the fantasy and fiction of our fallen state of da'ath and our fallen state of our minds. We will be in exile. We're trying to get out of exile and get to a place of redemption where the truth is revealed, that there's nothing, only Yod He Wahweh, nothing else beside him. So Moshe is the umbrella term for, just as I've said, he is the Moshiach of Yod He Wahweh, the umbrella term for the Moshiach of Yod He Wahweh, as opposed to the Moshiach, the false Moshiach that we have in our own limited understanding. Okay? Sambatyon River. The ordinal of Sambatyon River is 108. Sambatyon River is the river that the lost tribes of Israel must cross in order to unite all the tribes of Israel together. It's a very mystical concept. I've talked about it a lot. I've done some teachings where it mentions about the river, and that brings up this concept of Sambatyon River in there. You dug ears for me. Okay, so the regular comes to 738, the ordinal is 108. This is again a very mystical teaching in here. Can't go through it completely today, but just to indicate, this is another highly messianic verse, and it's obviously connected to all this as well. And he called to Moshe. This is where Moshe is the Aleph. This is the Aleph that's written little in the Torah, the beginning of the book of Vayikra, or otherwise known as Leviticus. And it's the state of Moshe in exile, where he's the little Aleph. Eventually it will become the big Aleph, the Aleph Gadol, and attain the level of Bina. Aleph Gadol is 1,000 as opposed to 1. I talked about that a lot. So 108 for that, the regular and the ordinal. The ordinal is 108. Add them together, it comes to 801, which is 9 times 89, 9 times the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara. Okay, and we have to overcome our Yetzer Hara, because our Yetzer Hara is a fantasy fiction, and our Yetzer Hara is our uncircumcised flesh, it's our uncircumcised lips, our uncircumcised heart, and our uncircumcised male anatomy. She's in the king's palaces, so that as our ordinal of 108, and this is a coded name for Moshiach it's a coded name for Serach Bat Asher. Pidyon Nefesh, so redemption of the soul, as spelt in Exodus 21:30. It's got a Mispah Gadol, ordinal of 108, so that's connected. Yoshua ben Nun, which is an appellation of Moshiach ben Yosef, has got an ordinal of 108. Signs of Moshiach, signs of the Moshiach, the ordinal of that comes to 108. Okay, so again connected. Da'ath, knowledge. So we've been talking about raising up our spernal da'ath, spernal knowledge that has fallen since eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Squared regular of that is 1,527 times 108. So connected up to this. These are all messianic, by the way, all highly messianic concepts. Nes Gadol HaYasham, a great miracle happened there, i.e. in exile. It's got an ordinal of 108. Added together with the regular, it comes to 621, 3 times R, 3 times 207. All my bones from Isaiah 38:13, 666, okay, 108. Ordinal, 108. I think that must be the ordinal, yeah, of all my bones, called Atzmathai. Okay, so that's all connected, and this is connected really to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. Mount Gerizim, which is the Mount of Blessing. Okay, so now we're on the 2,228. 2,228 is 2 times 1,114, so it's connected to the Mount of Blessing. Okay. The Cheruvim, So if we take the regular and the Mispah Gadol and add them together, 1114. The Cheruvim is also associated with the concept of Moshiach, Metatron, who's one of the Cheruvim, and Sandalphon, who's one of the other Cheruvim. Metatron is connected to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. Sandalphon's connected to the concept of Moshiach ben David. Metatron's connected to the Vav. Sandalphon, Moshiach ben David's connected to the final letter here of the name Yod-Heh Waw-Heh. So there's all kinds of very mystical concepts associated with that, but very messianic also. He is clean. So we talked about Tahor, he is clean. The 3 verses that end in he is clean. We looked at the 3 words for white contained within those 3 verses, and this is a filling out of he is clean. So again, it's connected to the concept of the Moshiach, suffering servant, the leper king. It comes to 1114, so I alone remain. This is again related to the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef. And then here we've got this again, these 2 coming up. And this is what I wanted to point it to. This is what I was wanting to point to on the last slide. So we had these 2 names, Yeshua and Moshe, but it was where the Vav was filled with a Vav and the He was filled with a He. So they got slightly different numbers. This is at the level of absolute, where the Vav is filled with a Yod and the He is filled with a Yod. Okay, so we've got slightly different numbers. We've got 532 regular, 117 ordinal, which comes to 659. For Moshe, we've got 455 regular. If we add this and this together, it comes to 1114, which is 2 times 557. It's connected to this verse as well. This is, a very, very significant messianic verse, because we're in the process of rectification. You've got to understand this is why we're going through what we've got. We've been given a work to do. And this phrase, I've done a teaching on this, it's absolutely wonderful regarding this Isaiah. Who forms light and creates darkness? And this is the world of formation, and this is the world of Bria. And Bria is higher than the world of formation. So basically the darkness is at a higher level than light. But darkness in and of itself needs transforming into a light, and then the light becomes higher than the light that was originally given to us. So if we handed light on a plate, it comes at one level. If we get light that's concealed in darkness and transform that darkness into light, it's actually at a higher level. It's at the level of Bria, the level of Bina, and this is the place to which we are desiring to return. So who makes peace? Again, this is the world of Asiyah, the world of making. So who makes peace and creates evil? So makes peace is at the world of Asiyah, creates evil is 2 worlds higher at the level of Bria. So evil is higher than peace. We get evil and we've got to transform evil into peace. This is synonymous with saying we've got Esav. Esav represents the evil inclination. Like what Elijah had, he had a very strong, powerful physicality. We've got to dominate over that. We've got to subdue it from Esav to Shalom. The gematria of Esav is exactly the same as the gematria of Shalom. We've got to create vessels of Shalom to contain the light of the name Yod-Heh Waw-Heh that's revealed in the Torah of Moshe and the Torah of Moshiach ben Yosef, united together as one. The 13 attributes of mercy as revealed in the book of Exodus within the letter of the Torah, the 13 attributes of mercy revealed above the letter of the Torah in the book of Micah chapter 7, which we've just read on Yom Kippur. Okay. It's all glorious stuff. It's all wonderful. This is related to here, look, because the ordinal of it is exactly the same as Moshe, and the regular and the ordinal add together to be 5 times 659. So we see again a unity. How is this accomplished? How is all this wonderful stuff accomplished? I am the Lord who makes all these, through the concept of Moshiach, the unity of Yeshua and Moshe together as one. And we can see how that is. He is clean, Cheruvim, all these big mysteries. It's linked back. Sarach Bat Asher is 557, which is 557 times 2 is 114, times 4 would be 2,228. And then we've got my covenant of peace, 998, okay, which is very close to the number of footsteps of Moshiach ben Yosef. Moshiach ben Yosef is 999 footsteps. The 1,000th footstep to take us up to the Aleph Gadol. We talked about the little Aleph, didn't we, of Vayikra, to get us up to the big Aleph, where the Moshiach is fully revealed, the concept of Moshiach is fully revealed, and elevated up is 999 footsteps below. Moshiach ben Yosef accomplishes these according to Kol Hatov, talked about this a lot. The final one is a revelation of grace. The final one is the revelation of Moshiach ben David from above. So when you get people saying, I am Moshiach, I am Moshiach, I am Moshiach, Moshiach is not revealed below, Moshiach is revealed above. We can, with the 999 footsteps below are what are revealed, and that primary task of Moshiach ben Yosef is to gather in the lost of Israel and rebuild Jerusalem. 116 is the ordinal of Moshiach ben Yosef. Together they come to 1114, connected to all these, back up to He, I alone remain. Very significantly messianic scripture. Okay, also we've got the concept of Moshe, which represents Tifereth, and Metatron, which represents Moshiach ben Yosef. Whilst Moshiach ben Yosef is suffering is in exile, I've talked about this. This is the meta system with which Yod-Heh-Waw is operating in order to reveal his oneness, in order to perfect us, to reveal his oneness, his perfect oneness. So Moshe plus Metatron comes 659, which is equivalent to Yeshua. Who is Yeshua? Well, Yeshua really was Moshe reincarnated. Okay, so Moshe and Yeshua as one. There's only one Mashiach. There's only one soul of Mashiach. He came first as Moshe, incarnated again as Moshiach ben Yosef. He will come again as Moshiach ben David. All one. So you can see that's connected to there also. What are these Hebrews? The square ordinal of it is 1114. Again, it's very significant. It will come up later as well, the concept of the Hebrews. Why? Because only Hebrews get out of it is slavery. He says, when Moshe said, when Yod-Heh-Waw said to Moshe, go speak to Pharaoh, he says, go tell Pharaoh, Yod-Heh-Waw, God of the Hebrews, let my people go. Only Hebrews can get out of slavery, because only we are prepared. Hebrews is synonymous with the truth, and it's only the truth that can set you free. So Hebrews is synonymous with the truth. As we're going to have a see it, that concept in more than one way, but we are going to see that concept later. There's some more gematria that's to come later. Okay, so we've got to be Hebrews. All right, I've already done that covenant of peace, haven't I? Sorry, don't need to go through that again. Right, I alone remain. This is what I really wanted to go through. This is the concept of Elijah and Moshe, the comparison. Why there's got to be a unity between the two, bearing in mind what Elijah represents, the overcoming of our physicality. This is the work that we need to do, the circumcisions that we need to have in place in order to receive the revelation Yod-Heh-Waw desires to receive. That truth that's got to overcome that coarseness of our flesh, that ego of our flesh, and transform it into holiness. Like Elijah, to the point where his whole body could ascend into heaven alive. Right, insights, Midrash Rabbah Devarim 11:10. If you wanted to go look at this yourself, I've got all this is based on an insight that's found in Midrash Rabbah Devarim. I've altered the wording slightly, okay? So it's called After Death Hope. Moshe was the greatest prophet, yet could not escape death despite fervent prayer. Yet Elijah was transported bodily into heaven on a chariot of fire, avoiding death entirely. So the entire of this insight, based on Midrash Rabbah Devarim, is based on this. Well, what does that mean then? Does that mean that Elijah was better than Moshe? Let's find out. When God decreed death upon man, he said to Adam, you are dust and you shall return to the dust. So this is significant. We'll come across this later. Got some gematria to go through from Genesis 3:19, that is. Rav Hunter, who this insight, this is in the Art Scroll copy of Midrash Rabbah Devarim, and the insight is based on teachings by Rav Hunter. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. Rav Hunter observes that every death claims two victims, one the deceased and one the hope that he continued to live in the hearts of those he leaves behind. The passing of hope, decreed in the verse above, is symbolised by the interment in the ground, i.e., and you shall return to the dust. The body is covered with earth and the heart forgets. His loved ones remember the departed less and less. Like, who can remember the great-great-great-great-grandfather? We haven't got it fresh in our minds at all. We probably don't even know who they are. Once they go into the ground, you can soon forget the departed. You remember them less and less over time. Just as the ground hides his body, so too it causes his memory to be obscured. All this is part of the second aspect of death. The deceased is forgotten, his future revoked, and all hope abandoned. This is a bit like the curse to Yeshua as well. May his name and his memory be erased. Okay, so there's two aspects to death. Erase somebody's name, that's one aspect of death, and erase their memory, that's another aspect of death. So, this curse really is a death of a kind. The two aspects of death was cursed upon Yeshua. However, Yeshua, Moshe, we'll see, Yeshua himself overcame both these aspects of death. Okay? The aspect of death that Moshe overcame and the aspect of death that Elijah overcame. Let's read on. And yet, despite all this, the fact remains a man is enjoined to hope and yearn for the revivification of the dead. There is therefore even hope in the dust that remains. We have got to have perfect faith in the resurrection of the dead, and this is not easy to accomplish. I talked about this before, and I'll hopefully be doing some lessons on it in the future. Moshe was not subject to this second aspect of death. The place of his burial was not known. Moshe escaped its effects. He died, but he did not return to dust. His passing was not followed by despair. His burial did not invalidate the hope in the revivification of the dead. Because Moshe could rise above this aspect of death, he left a way open for Israel as well, allowing the dream of salvation in a place where by rights there should be none. So Moshe was never forgotten. Moshe is never suffered forget. We have all remembered Moshe. So he's overcome that aspect of death. He lives in our hearts. He lives in our hearts all day, every day. So we have not forgotten Moshe. And he has truly overcome that, but so is Yeshua. He's not forgotten. Okay, so he may have, with our imagination, with the power of exile that we've been subject to, and the force that the power that then has over our flesh, to cause our flesh to become more and more physical and gross, it's still by that power of connecting to Moshe and connecting to Yeshua that we overcome the power of our flesh and circumcise our lips, our hearts, and our male anatomy, or even our female anatomy. I mean the sexual organs. That's what I'm really talking about. Purity. I'm talking about sexual purity, which is synonymous with Yosef. Elijah appears to have outstripped Moshe in his mastery of death. In fact, Moshe's accomplishment was the greater of the two. Both prophets overcame the decree of death. Elijah the body, Moshe the death that affects the heart and mind. What Moshe achieved was to defeat death on its own ground and leave a legacy of hope in the revivification of the dead in the world to come for himself and his people, Yisrael. Now, when we teach our children hope, and we had that verse, didn't we? Train up the youth. When we teach our children, we are leaving them with some hope in the revivification of the dead. When they're teaching about the teachings of Moshe and the teachings of Yeshua, we are passing on that hope to our children. So we are leaving a legacy of hope just the same. And that to me is connected to that whole concept of Moshe. But like I say, I hope you can now appreciate why Elijah has got to precede Moshiach. Moshe is the Moshiach. So in order for us to experience that aspect of the Moshiach being resurrected from the dead and coming as his final incarnation as Moshiach ben David, we've got something that precedes that. We have got to do a certain refinement of our body. We've got to do a tikkun olam. We've got to prepare ourselves to receive this glorious revelation. And there's lots that we can do to circumcise our lips, our sexual organs, and our hearts. All for good and all for a glorious end. And also, another thing, the very act of teaching Torah to children, is so powerful to accomplish that circumcision, because you've got to humble yourself in every way possible. You've got to humble your mind to think like a child. You've got to be aware of the innocence and purity of a child, and the fact that their Torah goes even higher than your own. This is what the sages say. Hence why Mordecai taught his children Torah when he was faced with the decree of Haman. Doubt. It's a very powerful thing to teach children, and it requires us to be pure. It requires us to be very humble in our heart, and it requires us to circumcise our lips to be able to communicate to children profound wisdom in a way that they are able to understand. So this is really connected to that concept of Elijah. And I hope you can see how that can help prepare the way for a revelation of Moshiach, i.e. Moshiach ben David. Right, let's go and have a look at this. We talked about the dust, didn't we? You shall return to the dust. We're going to look at some incredible Gematia to finish off. So to dust you shall return, Genesis 3:19. Comes to 1089. 117, that was one of the ordinals of Yeshua spelled out. We just had a look at that. Together they come to 1206. Filled it's 2055. Sorry, swear ordinal 2055. Filled 2096. So we got this concept, perfection of the world, Tikkun Le'olam. Mizpah Gadol 1206, that's connected up to there. We're in a process of rectifying the entire of creation. Why? To receive a revelation of Moshiach ben Dawid. The square ordinal of Moshiach ben Dawid comes to 1042. 1042 times 2 is the perfection of the world. The Mizpah Gadol and the ordinal added together. Okay. Right, I think that must be Tikkun then. Mizpah Gadol Tikkun 400, 111. Yeah, that is. It's just the word Tikkun. Sorry, I didn't quite work that out. So that 1206 is Tikkun, which is still we've got to go through. Is not just Tikkun of the world. We've got to go through our own personal Tikkun. Got to rectify these character traits, just as Elijah was able to rectify the grossness of his flesh, and by doing so ascended into heaven alive. Okay, so we've got that example before us. Let's do all we can. Let's be like Elijah was in order to see a revelation of Moshiach ben Dawid. This is very interesting. 1206, again connected to the concept of Yosef. And the bones of Yosef, which children of Israel had brought up out of Egypt, they buried in Shechem. The parcel of ground which Yaakov bought for the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of money. And they became the inheritance of the children of Yosef. That's from Joshua 24:32. It's got an ordinal of 1206, which connects us up to Tikkun, and which connects us up to dust shall you return. So Yosef also returned to the dust, but he shall return. He shall be resurrected. It's easier for me to say than revivification. Now the earth was astonishingly empty and darkness on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So this is the Spirit of Moshiach, Ruach Elohim, Waruach Elohim. You know, it has got, if we take the ordinal and the Mizpah Gadol ordinal, add them together, 1206. So connected to dust shall you return. It's all we're going to see. This is really, what are we returning to really? We're really not returning to dust. It's code name for we are going to return to a status. It's like almost a curse, but hidden in the curse is a higher blessing than if we were given the blessing directly. Just as we saw that verse, the evil gets transformed to something higher than shalom. The darkness comes from a place higher than the light. This dust, within it is all this experience of death. Really, it's the death of our flesh, isn't it? We've got to die to ourselves in a good way. Circumcise your lips, circumcise your heart, circumcise your anatomy. You know, get with it and you'll return to a place that is equivalent to being the Moshiach. It will usher in literally a revelation of the Moshiach. So that's all connected. And this is the mystery of gathering in the lost holy sparks during exile as well. All kinds of wonderful mysteries it's connected to. Connected us to here. To dust shall you return. This curse has got to become a blessing. It's a very, very great blessing hidden in here. It's basically saying you're going to return to a place of the Moshiach himself. We're all going to be raised up. We all fell in Adam, so we all suffered this curse to return to the dust. But through this process of rectification, including the process that refines us with our own death, God forbid, let's hope we can all die in a good way, like I say, by circumcising our hearts and carry on and on all the other things. But eventually we are being perfected so that we return to our original status in Gan Eden and even higher. You know, the level of Moshiach, even including the level of Yechidah, which Adam never had. Okay. Came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh was dreaming, and behold, he was standing by the Nile. Obviously, this connects us to Yosef, Moshiach ben Yosef, in exile. So it's exactly the same as to dust you shall return. So even this horrible thing that happened to Yosef, going into Egypt, separated from all his family, becoming a slave, getting in prison, then there was a final salvation involved in that. It's, as he said, what you did for evil, Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh did for good, to bring about salvation. Okay, so we can see that that's connected. And he said to them, I am a Hebrew, and I fear the Lord God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. And I've talked about this before. The sea refers to the Torah. The dry land is the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh, hidden in the sea. Like just as the children of Israel couldn't leave Egypt without the sea bed being revealed and walking on dry bed. And then even the Yarden had to part and allow the children to cross over from the desert into Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. The dry land is synonymous with the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Weh. Okay, and I've shown that in previous teachings. I can't go over it today. So this is where we get the Hebrew being synonymous with the truth. Ivri Anochi, I am a Hebrew, as in this verse here. 363. 363 times 3 is 1089. So it's connected up to here. You want this curse to become a blessing? Be a Hebrew. Be able to say those words, Ivri Anochi, I am a Hebrew. That word Anachi, very, very significant, by the way. I talked about that on last lesson. I went through the leper and doubt. It's absolutely brilliant. Go look at the significance of the name Anachi. Why it's an Egyptian word. It is phenomenal. But together the regular and the ordinal come to 444, which is exactly the same as the regular for Emeth and truth, which is one of the 13 attributes of mercy as revealed to Moshe. Okay? Within the book of Exodus. Right, now it gets really wonderful, doesn't it? This is taken from the Levirate, the concept found in the Torah regarding Levirate marriage, and not erase his name from Israel. So you're not to erase the man's name. You've got to go through the Levirate marriage. When a man dies who hasn't borne children, his wife has got to marry his brother. Okay, so we know that story. Here, Welo Yemacha Shemo, and not erase his name from amongst the tribes of Israel. That word there, Yemacha Shmo, highlighted in red, is HaMoshiach, the Moshiach, whose name is not to be erased. The Moshiach's name is not to be erased. 446, ordinal, which is exactly the same as Ha-Emeth, the truth. Yeshua said, I am the truth. It's also the same as Moshe filled out this way, 446. It's also the same as the Pishon River, Babylonian exile, that represents. I've talked about that in previous teachings, can't go over it now. 95 is the ordinal. It's Hamelech, the same as Hamelech. Okay, together they come to 541, which is exactly the same as Yisrael, i.e. all the tribes of Israel. So we shouldn't erase the name of the Moshiach, which is exactly what has happened. Why? Because we've got this portion here. May his name be erased in his memory. Yimach Shemo Zikro. It's all part of the will of Yod-Heh-Wah, to conceal the concept of Moshiach ben Yosef, to give us a work to do, to toil in exile, to reveal this wisdom and the hidden system that bears the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. And he will not return until we say, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yod-Heh-Wah. Okay, 643. 121 added together 764, and I've already said 764 is 4 times 191, 4 times all the 4 names mentioned in the Talmud that the Mashiach is. Menachem, Shiloh, Yinon, Chanina. The ordinal of all those comes to 191, telling us that the one who's had his name erased is the Mashiach, because those 4 names, the initial letters, spell Moshiach. Okay, so this is the curse of Yeshua. He's called Yeshu within Rabbinic Judaism. It's the curse of Yeshua. His name is erased and his memory. We talked about the 2 aspects of death. 316, in the curse is the greatest blessing. Okay, it's a higher blessing than a blessing, a direct blessing. Just as the darkness comes from a higher place than the light. If we take 643, which is the regular of May's name, be erased in his memory, we minus the curse, the 316, the initial letters, Yeshu, we come to 327. That number's going to come up in a minute. 643, which is this one, may his name be erased in his memory, plus 446, and not erase his name, which is a command from Torah regarding Levirate marriage that's related to this, comes to 1089. Which is exactly the same as to dust you shall return. This curse the blessing of which must be revealed. 1089 divided by 3 is 363, which is exactly the same as HaMoshiach, exactly the same as these letters here. HaMoshiach is also Anaki, Ivri, I am a Hebrew. To reveal Moshiach, you have to be a Hebrew. This is the truth. It's connected to Spernal Da'ath. 327 is Moshiach ben Dawid, ordinal Moshiach ben Yosef, ordinal Moshiach ben Ephraim, ordinal. The three main aspects of Moshiach. 327. Okay? So if you remove the curse, you reveal the Moshiach. We see how that's all connected. It's all perfect stuff, by the way. And then finally, this whole concept of Yotei Wauhe, we've got this Anachi, Anachi. So like I say, go look at that word from the previous teaching that I did about doubt and leper and doubt. Go over that. It's absolutely beautiful. But Anachi, Anachi, this is one of the verses where this phrase is repeated, this name is repeated. Anachi, Anachi, Yotei Wauhe. I am the Lord, and besides me there is no Saviour. Okay, so some major concepts in there, but basically it's exactly the same as to dust you shall return. So you want this revealed, you're going to have to understand what this curse is and what is hidden in this curse regarding the concept of Mashiach, which Mashiach ben Yosef, obviously, but also connected to a revelation of all the concepts of Mashiach and the truth and Moshe. Okay? Ravlak, this is what Moshe, when he was begging, just before he died, he was begging, but Afchanan, pleading to Yodeh Wahweh, please let me enter into Eretz Yisrael. There's all kinds of teachings that are done regarding what he was pleading for. He was pleading that the Torah of Moshe not descending to the Erev Rav influence. It did do. We've got to reveal the Torah of Moshe, which is a revelation of the name of Yodeh Wahweh, from within that Erev Rav influence. Okay? However, Yodeh Wahweh said to him, it is enough for you, Rav Lach. And Arizal said this can mean it is a teacher for you, like Rav as in teacher and Lecha for you. And the teacher it was ultimately that he was given was John the Baptist. And I did a teaching on this. It was one of the first Arizal teachings I've done. I may put a link in the description. And basically this is it's the Rav Lach is linked to the phrase, the most important phrase that John the Baptist uttered. He said, I must decrease and he must increase. And contained within that is the words Rav Lach. It's Lach, Rav Lach. And I've highlighted it on that particular Arizal teaching. I'll try and remember to put it in the comments. So with that, I think I've covered it, other than to say the salvation of Yod-Heh Wahweh is revealed through the concept of the Moshiach. It's even revealed in the curse. It's even revealed in this curse. But we can't just, it's like here, you can't have one without the other. You can't have the light without the darkness. You can't have shalom without evil. You can't have Israel without the nations. You can't have the rose without the thorn. You've got to put them together. And this is why you've got this blessing and not erase his name has got to be linked with the actual curse of reality of Mashiach ben Yosef, which was, he had his name erased. But you've got to link them both together in order to reveal the Mashiach. You've got to take the light and the dark to reveal the Mashiach. You've got to take the concealment and transform it into revelation. You cannot have one without the other. And this is a lesson that we've got to learn. But all of it, ultimately, there's only Yod-Heh Wahweh. This is what it's telling us. Even though Yod-Heh Wahweh is used, and we know that this is the reality in the world in which we live. This is the experience of the exile of the last 2,000 years. We have lived it, we see it with our eyes, we've breathed it, we've suffered it, and we've learnt from it the Torah of Yod-Heh Wahweh, and we've learnt the concept of the Mashiach of Yod-Heh Wahweh, as revealed in the Torah, which is the mind of Yod-Heh Wahweh. Okay, and this is the power to overcome all these forces of exile, to reveal the truth that there is only Yod-Heh Wahweh. He is our Saviour. There is no other Saviour than him, but he has used this whole system of manifestation in creation throughout time for real, what we have actually suffered, in order to reveal that salvation and his name and the fact there is nothing else beside him. And with that, I will say shalom and also Chag Sameach. Please subscribe and share.